We will formally call the meeting to order at 4:01. I just want to say a huge thank you to the crew at Station 55 for hosting us here. Really interesting to see the different stations, and this one especially because this one's near and dear to John and myself since it's our community. So very appreciative of that. All right, so let's take attendance. Commissioner Burford, we know is not here. Commissioner Johnson here. Commissioner McCusker
Here.
Commissioner Waterbury here. Commissioner Chang
Here.
Okay. All right, so time for public expression, and I know we have one guest. So our formal process is if you could state your name and what neighborhood you live in,
Okay.
and then any comments that you have for the Fire Commission.
Okay,
And
thank
thank
you.
you for joining.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Victoria DeWitt. I know Bob, and I'm a 40+ year resident of the West End neighborhood. And I want to thank everyone for volunteering for this commission. So I do appreciate the work that you do. But I wanted to bring attention, I did submit a letter last month, but I wasn't able to attend the meeting. These are just, I printed out my letter, and also I've attached a petition that our neighborhood has garnered 99 people that oppose the proposed closing of the left turn lane from westbound 2nd Street to Marquardt and West End Avenues, which is part of a project that Public Works is working on with the 2nd and 4th Street intersection improvement project.
Mhm.
And so they propose closing this left turn lane, which is closing access to Marquardt going uphill. And the alternative routes are either kind of take you way kind of out of the way into more congested areas, more difficult to access streets. So Marquardt is really the main access for many of our homes on the hillside. And they're proposing to close that except for emergency vehicles. So they're proposing to put in this mountable curb that, according to the Federal Highway Transportation Administration, it's the most easily to violate all barriers. So it really isn't truly a barrier. They're trying to prevent vehicles from driving over it, but we think people will violate it because the alternative routes are just not as desirable as the access from Marquardt. And so we would like you as Fire Commission to advise the fire department that I think they need to take a closer look at whether this is going to create delays in response time, because we did have a fire in this hillside has very narrow roads. We did have a fire in 2016, and the fire truck was making up the hill, so the firefighters had to carry equipment 800 feet up the hill to gain access to this house at 55 Upper Fremont. I think Bob remembered it. I think he was around when that happened. But anyway, I think putting the barrier up, I think they're also moving the crosswalk from the west side of the intersection to the east side. So if you're responding to a fire on that hillside, you not only have to navigate a left turn where there's no longer a left turn lane or left turn signal, now you have to navigate the pedestrian bicycle crosswalk directly in front of the left turn up there. So I would like to, as a commission, if you could advise the fire department to take a very serious look at this. I just don't think it's a good solution, and it creates a lot more dangerous situation with vehicles violating that barrier, driving over it anyway. They close off West End Avenue. Vehicles are not supposed to go straight through the 2nd, and they do it anyway. They have a rubber curb there. They're not supposed to cross over. They do it anyway. You can just stand there for 10 minutes and you can see about 3 vehicles go through. So anyway, I think it's very dangerous, and we're really, the petition we've had signed by 99 people. I'm sure we'll get 100. I know one more person I think will sign it. That are opposed to the closure of this left turn lane. And Rafat Ray, the city's former traffic engineer, actually advised the VPAC that he doesn't advise closing the left turn lane, that it's because the location needs to remain open to all modes of transportation, vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. So, he's no longer with the city, and now they're trying to close it. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Okay, do commissioners have any questions for Victoria? Oh, okay. Okay, well, thank you. Thank
If
you for your
anybody
time.
would like to meet me, I'm happy to meet you on site to show you what we're talking about. So I'd be pleased to meet with anybody that's interested, including fire chief or Bob, to show you what we're talking about.
Okay. That's fine. Well, thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time and thank you for submitting this and coming all the way from the other side of the city.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so moving on, minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review the minutes. Do we have any corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are passed. Moving on, the Fire Foundation, Commissioner McCusker.
So I'd like to introduce my guest to all of you today. Carrie McClellan is a local resident in this fire district, and she has recently joined the Fire Foundation Board.
I appreciate that.
So I also received in the email from Thomas a copy of the Santa Rosa Fire Foundation fundraiser that they did, and I just wanted to share it with all you commission members. I thought it was rather impressive what they had done, and I really love the fact that they've gone out and garnered corporate sponsors for the foundation up there. And I hope to see the San Rafael Fire Foundation clone the concept and start getting corporate sponsors in the years ahead. So obviously, if any of you, as we go through time, know a corporation that we should approach, we welcome your input. I also wanted to share with you that I got a phenomenal demonstration from our Thomas with the drone out at the Civic Center. It's really quite a piece of equipment. The capabilities are tremendous, and they've already proven that it'll be a great asset to the firefighters and the community. What the foundation would like to do is at some point in the future, have a Thomas do a demonstration for both the Fire Foundation Board and the Commission Board, so that everyone could see the awesome tool that the department now has. So that's something that we'll do sooner than later. And then you all saw that the foundation delivered the helmet shields to Station 57 on Memorial Day, and they were all pretty darn excited to get their own personalized shield. So that took place as well. And if you haven't seen it, it is on the San Rafael Fire Association's Instagram page. And that's enough for the foundation today.
The video images from the drone were just remarkable at the response at the airport. I was really blown away, and I would imagine that makes quite a difference. Chief, maybe a question for either chief, in terms of the tactics, does that having an aerial view, I would imagine, is of great assistance for things that you may not be able to see from the ground.
Yeah, for Kyle's first comments, he was the incident commander on fire. He goes, I didn't know how big the fire was. And he was the incident commander on it. One of the inherent problems with it is an incident commander will get one, maybe two sides, and that's all you see. And basically you see smoke. We don't get that bird's eye view on there. So we know there's a fire in there, but to what extreme, we don't know. So that particular day, on this fire, Thomas and I went out there and Thomas took the drone with him. And we were able to see the amount of fire that was going on there, but not only that, the exposures that we had around there. At one point, there was so much smoke blowing over to the west side of it that you can see there's other buildings there. Well, with infrared and thermal imaging, now you can tell there's a building back there. So otherwise, you're not seeing anything. As a matter of fact, at one point, the giant ship had positioned himself right over the smoke belt, so he basically got on the air and said, I can't see anything right now, I need to move. But we were already at that point already witnessing the whole thing, the 360 view of it, and so it does make it good for tactics. There was one time I got on the radio and just made sure that my folks knew that there was a direct exposure on there. So it was because of the drone, because I could see the drone footage on there, so.
And that's interesting. So it does have, I noticed that in one of the clips, it's thermal imaging in addition to just
Yeah.
general video.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what's hugely helpful because actually, Thomas, you did a fair amount of work with the ladder truck there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we, Incident Command, Chief Hamilton directed me to go onto the ladder truck and work with the operator there. I think it was. Angel,
Okay.
was on there and, they, obviously in their position there, they're at the bottom of the ladder. They're not, going from the top of the ladder, and you probably saw from the footage, but they couldn't really see that well of where the water was going into the warehouse there. The warehouse roof had kind of collapsed inward and it was a little hard to kind of see. So I was able to show the real-time drone footage and actually help direct that water into some of the hotspots in there. So yeah, it was highly effective in really getting water where it was needed. Later on, we were able to also help some other firefighters get some water on some hotspots once it kind of died down. It kind of looks like the fire is pretty contained, but using the thermal imaging camera, you can still see flames and other hotspots within the building. So it was definitely a good experience for everyone, and I think a valuable asset.
It's really remarkable. So quickly after it was put into commission to see it put to work and the huge effectiveness that it has and greater efficiencies.
My opinion from an incident command standpoint, situational awareness is an absolute game changer. I was so impressed with this piece of equipment. I haven't been this impressed with a piece of equipment in a long time. I will be honest with you. I'm not exaggerating. When I saw what Thomas was doing with the drone at the airport fire, it just completely changes the perspective for the incident commander and those making key decisions. They can see everything. Where, typically when you're at a command post, you're on one side of the building, you really don't have any idea what's going on the other sides. And as the chief said, exposure issues, you're not really clear on that. And the drone just gives you all the information you need to make rapid and effective decisions.
Yeah, what Thomas was saying about the hose on the ladder truck, being able to pinpoint it with
Right.
much more precision.
In fact, one of the photos, I think it was in Hot Shot, from the drone, shows the aerial, basically aiming the stream over the fire. It was hitting one of the exposures because the operator of the truck could not see. And once Thomas went up and was able to show the truck operator where the stream was going, he could redirect it more effectively. So that was entirely due to the drone.
Yeah,
So go back to Hot Shot and you'll see there's a photo of
Yeah.
the stream basically going over the building.
yeah. And in the videos too.
Yeah. Thomas shared with me, this is a brag for California USA made. So the drone was made here in the United States. The company Skydio is based in San Mateo, so it's California. Thomas shared with me that the drone was originally designed to be used with the military. You guys have like the best.
It's obvious.
Yeah,
This thing is
Yeah.
very high quality. It's not a toy. It's a valuable piece of equipment.
So can I ask you a question? What if it was a wildfire in a community and you were trying to get people out? Would it help?
I'll let these-
It's, yes and no. So yes, it would help if we don't have anybody else up there. The inherent problem with it is on wildland that we're also dispatching helicopters and airplanes, so we have to ground it at that point automatically. So based on what kind of response we do, we would be highly coordinated in that aspect of it. So that's something I don't necessarily commit to. It will be situationally based on there, but we are potential using both fixed wing helicopters and the drone. If we do the drone specifically at a lower altitude, specific around evacuations, while the helicopter is dropping water and the planes are dropping retardant, maybe it will work that way. But there is, what is it, a mile?
At the,
Drone can't get close to.
it depends, but yeah, generally speaking, a mile, but yeah, you can fly, if you fly low enough, it's generally, but you need to coordinate. Most, airplanes have technology that can, our drone and our controller broadcast a signal that can be read by most aircraft these days. And so they will be notified that this, drone is in the area and where it is. But it can be used in certain situations too. It does have a microphone, that can broadcast a pre-recorded message or a live message. Also has a siren that can be used as well. So, in certain situations, you could definitely alert people, maybe a little sooner than other methods.
Tell them about the flashing lights.
Yes, it also has, per FAA regulation, it has lights that can be seen from 3 statute miles away. So it has very bright, lights as well. So, that's both for safety for others flying, but also for the operator, so they know where the aircraft is.
So when I went to the demonstration, he flew the drone over to the Civic Center firehouse. I couldn't see it anymore because it blended in with the trees. So then he turned the lights on when he brought it back, and then I could see it. And this was in the middle of the day. But it blended in with the landscape and I lost visual on it. So I should ask of the fire commissioners here, raise your hand if you would like to have Thomas do a demo. Okay, cool. All right. We'll make it happen.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Donna, and thank you to the Fire Foundation. It's
Absolutely.
really incredible to see that level of impact from what the foundation does and how it will help in the efforts and save lives, save property, et cetera. Let's talk offline because I have some ideas about the Fire Foundation website, and there's great video coming from the drones already that maybe we can think about ways, if it's permissible, that we could use that for some of the ideas we have for the website. Okay, next agenda item, Commissioner Chung is 150th anniversary subcommittee.
Just, we're working on the 9/11 service at 54. That'll happen at 0800 like we did last year. And I need to meet with Chief Hatfield. We want to do a pop-up equipment showcase, and we want to emphasize marine units. So we might do it at maybe by Annie's Market. We can incorporate the drone and do some EMS. So it's a work in progress. We'll figure it
So
out.
the event may not be at 54, isn't that?
So
what you said?
9/11 will be at 54
Okay.
because of the
Yeah.
Captain Alvarez acquired that. So,
Yeah.
shorter,
And the time it's gonna
the
be,
0800, because it, the significance of the time was when the planes hit the tower.
Yeah.
So it's great. So we'll make it happen.
I know we have limited space, but is there a desire to get the message out to the community?
Yeah, we should try to get the word out, to the community, maybe about a month ahead of time.
Yeah,
And we're kind of like, the first time we did it, we weren't sure if anybody, would come, and kind of like a test run, and it was really cool. So we're gonna try to let more members of the public.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else on it?
That's it.
Okay, great. All right, so now we'll go into the news media articles. There was one submitted, fire department eyes shakeup amid rising demand follow-up online. Thomas, do you read?
Oh,
Has been.
Oh, that was-
We didn't confirm the date, but it'll probably be October the fire.
I'm sorry, we had one other thing we were talking about. Thomas, I forgot about this.
Doing another open house at PSC
PSC.
51, coinciding with Fire Prevention Week, which is beginning of October. We may try to get police to do it with us so that they can do a PSC showcase, and we only got, for those that attended, only got to see the fire side, but there's a whole other half of the building that was unavailable, so probably trying to coordinate with them to do a building wide event.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, news media articles, so Ken, you submitted,
Yeah, it was just an article that I ran across and it was, it had to do with, density increase, community growing very much like ours, so, which we've been discussing. And, I found it's interesting because it had a lot of the same characteristics that we're going through here. So I just wanted to share with everybody. I don't have it in front of me and we don't have a screen to put it up on, so, take a look at it if you get a chance.
Okay. The next one was on the ISO rating. I think
Same,
that
same
also
thing.
came from you.
That's
Yeah.
kind of something that a fire commissioner can have in his back pocket if somebody, if you're at a dinner or cocktail party or whatever, and somebody says, you know, you're on the fire commissioner, the commission, do we have a good fire department? Do we have, are we adequately protected? If you read that article, you could say, these guys kill it, right? They're protection class 1, and it gives you all the statistics as to the, the bell graph of very few people in America have a protection class 1 rating, and these guys do. So it was more of like a tool for us to say, if somebody says, are we adequately protected? It gives you all the information, background. These guys know it, but or you could always share it. Say, yes, the San Rafael Fire Department is among the best of the best in the United States. So kudos to you guys. I don't know if you saw it, but yeah.
It was interesting to see how few have that class 1 distinction.
Yeah, and everybody, it affects everybody because it's, residential, people offering residential insurance. Look to the protection class code, and these guys are out there putting their lives on the line to make people's, premiums reasonable.
Yeah, also interesting to see that one of the categories that I think they based the categorization on was public awareness and public communications, and that's something that I think we as a fire commission can do a lot to help with as well. Good. Okay, the next article was in our own Marin IJ. It was the Marin Voice, and the chief. And his, I think it was entitled San Rafael Fire Chief urges all to make plans for emergencies. So that was more of just an FYI. Hopefully people had a chance to read through that, chief. I thought that was great. Everything from getting a go back to having your emergency evacuation route planned. I think that's exactly the type of communications that we need to get out to the community. So really nice to see that. Thank you, IJ.
The date that was?
On the 14th of May. Okay, and then the final item, it was in the news media section or media section was the San Rafael Wildfire Prevention and Protection Action Plan. It was quite a lengthy document. Not sure if everybody got a chance to get all the way through that, but did someone in particular submit? Okay,
And I'll get to that when I give my commissioner report.
okay,
We'll hold on that.
okay. All right, sounds great. Well, let's move into the commissioner reports now. Commissioner Johnson, you can start.
I don't have anything really to add, no changes from my last report, and so that those articles were kind of my contribution to this. I'm definitely crazy going on in my world.
Okay, Commissioner Char.
I got to drive the chief's buggy. That was cool.
That's what I heard this
So-
morning.
So, the chief has a new Tahoe. Tahoes are bigger now. I don't know if you've seen the CHP versions of the Tahoe. Tahoes are like suburban size, what were formerly suburban. And so, Chief Bernard, I was supposed to ride with him one day, and he said, asked if I could drive his new buggy up to Pittsburgh because to a company that does that. So we had to ferry his car out to a place in Pittsburgh. And it's unmarked, it's white. So there were a couple people passing me and they looked inside and they stopped thinking that I was maybe this. I don't know if you ever get that, but yeah. But anyways, it'll be, I don't know, another week or two or, I don't know. Yeah, Chief Bernard said a couple of weeks, but
I'm just happy it's over there.
yeah, but anyways, you got a nice ride.
And is it a special version of the Tahoe that's not for civilian use
No,
or for
it's-
public safety?
No, it's a civilian use one. Usually we shy away from civilian use ones, but this one, we actually got at a really good price. It's also diesel, which allows renewable fuel.
Mhm.
We're getting out of one tank about 600 gallons. I mean, 600 miles.
600 miles.
600 gallons, that's pretty. 600 miles per tank, which is, so it's like a super fuel efficient, ironically enough. So that's where we opt to go there. As a matter of fact, I just had the police chief contact me this morning. He's now he wants one too, so.
Yeah.
So, but we were able to put a command box back there, so it'll be equivalent, so I can function as a PC, and I do cover the battalion chiefs on occasion when they're not available, if they're off the training, so I do cover the battalion chief, so. I also have my SCBA back there, just like a battalion chief, and I have my whole system back there also, so. It'll be a nice rig, and I can run command from there also.
Yeah, very nice. Anyways, that's all I got.
Okay, all right, thanks. Commissioner McCusker.
I want to compliment David being our chair for encouraging all of us to meet with our city council people. I did it with Mary Beth Bushy this last month, and it would have never happened had you not tasked us with that. And it was a really great experience. I'm super glad that I did it. I would like us to play musical chairs and next year trade who we're gonna contact with, so we don't keep seeing the same person each time. It was great. I just think it was a wonderful idea that you came up with, and I was able to connect with her. So she, quite an interesting character. She's stepping down and will no longer be a council person moving forward after her term is up. That's a definite. Talk about someone who's got a tremendous amount of iron in the fire. That woman is every which way until Sunday doing a ton of volunteer work for the community. She shared with me the article that Thomas included, which is the Wildfire Prevention and Protection Action Plan. And she said, well, do you know about it? And I was like, nope. You know, I didn't know about it. I was going to be honest and say I didn't. And she said, well, it was originated when Chief Gray was still with us. So 2019 was when it was put together and approved by City Council in 2020. It is a really interesting document, and I'm happy to say that our fire department and our commissioners are doing many of the 38 items in the report, that we're doing it, which is really cool. But one came up that I saw that I went, you know, we have never talked about this. I only thought about it previous to reading the report from a client of mine. And that was item 36, which addresses the need for a backup battery with your garage door in case the power should go out in the time of a fire. And the reason I know about it is I have clients that were in the Paradise Fire that people could not evacuate because they couldn't get out of their garage because the power was out and they burned to death in their garage. And that got my attention big time. So yes, now I have not a backup battery, but I've drilled myself on lifting the garage door manually. And then we built a stick that I can put in the door to hold the door open. But it was something that we've never talked about as a group. And I don't think if I hadn't had that client share it with me, it would have never crossed my radar like, oh, a backup battery? Oh, shoot, I should have that, especially if you're not strong enough to lift the door yourself. So I would say you should all look at that 38 point document. And I don't know what we as a commission or as the fire department want to do about calling it out, but it's certainly something that I think a lot of residents have never thought about. Here, I'm a fire commissioner for 4 years and it didn't cross my mind. To have your garage retrofitted with battery. There is a company out of Santa Rosa that does it. If your remote control can accommodate it, but to me, it's a really big deal. It's another fire safety issue that the community should. So that was the first point that she said, you know, you really should take a look at that 38 point report, and I did. And I would encourage all of you to do it as well, because like I said, most of the items in that report we are doing. The other thing that she brought up, and I pushed back on it because I know what the department's doing, but she said, we need to see both genders represented at the fire department. And I said, do you mean staff or management, or what are you talking about? She said, all of it. And I said, well, you can't hire the opposite gender if they don't apply to the position. The same as in my industry. I've been in my career for 40 years. Women still represent less than 10% of the workforce as far as my actual profession. So it's not that we're discriminatory as a department, it's that you're not getting women stepping up and wanting to do it. And I know that Chief White had been doing academies in Novato to recruit young women. I remember him doing that while he was still our chief. You guys probably remember him talking about it. But that was her comment. And like I said, well, you can't hire them if they don't apply. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that she brought that up as the other point that she felt we needed to work on.
Yeah, and we have been working on that fairly diligently. One of the things that, as a side note, is the BLS program that we're trying to bring on board, which is basically 2 EMTs riding on ambulance. What that does, right now, I get a filtered version of any kind of employee. I can't pick them. I just get whoever went to firefighter 1 academy and whoever went to paramedic school. So I'm already working on a negative because I'm not part of that process. I'm not picking people to go to EMT school. I basically get whoever can afford to go there, whoever knows about those programs is what I'm getting. If I go back in there, if I take a picture of a paramedic school, it's mostly going to be male, of single race. If I take that same class at an EMT, it changes dramatically on what the makeup is. And if I go further back than that, I'll take a high school picture, it changes even more on it. So somewhere along that line, I'm not getting the person that I want, or the desire of me having diversity in our fire department, I'm not getting that part of it. So one of the things that we've done is we're going to try to establish this EMT program to get some more diversity in there. We are right now have the Explore program going. We are doing everything. And we're here to help you get along that. The other things that I'm looking at is potentially, one thing that I was worried about is how much is it going to cost to take somebody to paramedic school on there. One of the things that Santa Rosa Junior College is willing to do is work with us so that we could sponsor them at a very low rate. So, and they told me it's anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 to send somebody to paramedic school. And then I go, so I'm thinking about that, thinking about figuring how do I budget that, and also be able to give some kind of stipend to be able to, get some food during that time while they're in paramedic school. Something very simple on that. But really, the biggest, most marvelous thing is that also we are bringing them with a mentor, a San Rafael firefighter paramedic that's already there, that's already part of that. So they're not seeking some other mentor up there on their own. We've got a built-in system where there's a mentor already built in there and part of that program now. So that's what we hope to get the program to. This is the first step, and we'll have some trial and errors for sure. I mean, it is life, and we'll figure that part out. But that's where I really want that program to be at that level. And then, figure out if there's no positions for us, will they pay us back for that? Do they go apply, or do they have to work for us for a certain amount of time? So I'm not even preaching any of those conversations right now. I just want to have that diversity in there and be able to breathe through there. Since then, we did have one female that's going through there right now through our she got hired as a firefighter paramedic, and we got her out of San Francisco. She used to work on a similar type of program out of San Francisco, and that's where we got her from. So we are doing a lot of things to basically, not necessarily, it's not a quota we're trying to meet. So I just want to make that extremely clear. What we're trying to do is expose people that are generally underrepresented or just don't have the finances to be able to go to Firefighter 1 Academy or go to paramedic school, or don't even know how to get into the system on there. Now, why this is near and dear to me is because I am one of those people. There's no way, my parents were farmers. There's no way in hell I would have been a firefighter or a paramedic if I didn't have these programs when I was very young. I was 14 years old. That's why I started as an explorer. There's no way I would have been able to be attracted to this field. So So that's why those programs are very near and dear to me, and that's why I'm very passionate about getting this program started and moving forward. And, you know, a lot of it has to do with money, right? The city, they're more constantly gonna say no. So for me and Thomas, we constantly try to figure out how can we make this financially feasible. The BLS program, we believe that it'll be cost neutral at the end of it, when it's said and done, just because we're charging for the transports on there. So it's a cost neutral program that brings now, we're talking about half a dozen or maybe more, potential EMTs out of this program. And now we're exposing to the paramedic program, built in mentors and potentially get some scholarship for them. Then I will never have a recruitment issue after that. I have built up a system that constantly has people that are already indoctrinated at a very young age or very early into their career, and now have a sense of pride and allegiance to the organization. So, and that was me. I mean, I still to this day, if the Gold Ridge Fire Department, where I started when I was 14, calls me because they need something, I show up there. And occasionally when there's an incident or something like that, they call me, can you come help us out? Guess what I'm doing? I'm headed up to the fire station. I gotta go help. So there, that's what we hope to do. And that's what we're getting to at this point. So.
SFFD has 10% women. They've had 10% women since the 90s. It was kind of a, I don't know, goal, even though you don't use that word anymore. But now it reflects the applicant pool, but it's 10% because the requirement in San Francisco is EMT. But if you have a criteria of paramedic firefighter, you have a smaller applicant. But I will say that there are women's group in the fire service here in the Bay Area that are putting on boot camps and 2 days of like a weekend training program or introduction to the fire service. And our firefighters in San Rafael have participated in. So it's active and it's ongoing. We get a lot of applicants, but it's just trying to attract more people to this job that a lot of people don't know about.
I remember seeing a news article about this very topic, and I think there was an event in the last 2 years or so. I'll see if I can find that article, because that might be a good one to pass on to the councilwoman.
Yeah, there was one on the boot camp, maybe a couple months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Your report? Okay. Commissioner Water.
Well, I think I mentioned at the last meeting that I'm now on this Marin Fire History Committee. And the purpose of the committee is to basically document the history as far back as we can go of the fire departments in Marin County. And so I just finished doing a video for them of the in 1974 we had a fire on Santa Fe Hill, and prevailing winds usually come from the ocean. This time we had 90 degrees, the humidity was low. We had the phone wind, which is like a Santa Ana wind coming in the direction. So it pushed this fire right into the burial community. So it was a scramble to try and get fire engines up, in that canyon and outside the canyon to stop its fire, at least save the houses. So that's what I've been working on with them. I'm always keeping kind of an eye out for what can I learn there that I can bring back here, and vice versa. And so that's really been taking a lot of time. I'm working now too on the history of the Marinwood fire department. So kind of what I've been doing.
Great. All right. Presentation about the history, I think it was of Marin County firefighting. I think it's at the library or some other location. I can't
Yes,
remember.
Chief Senna and I attended that event. And you were there too, the one that, the church, the history. of the center.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, that was, yeah, the history of the center file.
It was specific to
Yeah.
San Rafael.
Yeah. Yeah, this
very good.
this is total Marin County, the,
Yeah,
before we had mutual aid and, you know, the struggles with mutual aid and all that.
Hmm.
That we had.
okay, interesting. Okay, so for my report, just a couple of things, you know, for the drone, I remember when I had my meeting with Councilmember Hill, he was interested in that, so. Is it okay, Thomas, if I forward, I think there was the email that you had,
I already forwarded it to all the city
you
council.
did, okay, all right, great. Because I know that he was very interested in that. And also just, you know, on a personal note, it's so great to see the honor of your brother. And, you know, the naming Big Mac, and, I know that's very special to you, so.
And I should say to all of you, it couldn't have happened without Battalion Chief Kyle Hamilton. He's very modest about it, but he was the one that took the ball and ran with it to go through all the red tape to get it approved. It was my idea, but finding him was like hunting for a needle in a haystack, but it happened. So he's to be commended for that.
So one other thing I have, and I didn't make copies of it, but it was kind of interesting. So this is, I just lived around the corner, so Peacock Gap is the homeowners association here. And they put out a mailer that had a whole section on fire prevention, which I thought was great. I can pass around for people to take a look at. That's the only copy I have. But I guess it just raised the thought that that's one more avenue of communication. You know, we've got all the social media channels and other ways of communicating with the public, but we know, is there any registry of homeowners associations within the city that we could potentially push, or maybe it's already happening, maybe that's how the Peacock
I know
Gap.
that we do have the registry of homeowners associations, and we do, homeowners associations, because we could do with one meeting, we could hit the whole association. So we do reach out a lot to them, and I'm not sure where this came from. It could have very well come from one of my folks there. I'm not sure. But I know they do a lot of outreach.
Okay,
But it is a multifaceted attack, right? There's the social media aspect of it. There's just word of mouth, and there's just all sorts of things on there. And we really, one of the things I was going to add to my report here, but we just hired 3 career vegetation management folks on there, which needed to happen because we've had such a it was fixed term position up until now. And basically somebody come to work for us for a year and then they're gone. So we ramp up the project, get it ready to go, and they said, okay, I gotta go somewhere else. That's the deal. But now I'm happy to report that we have 3 career positions starting, and that's addition to Kate. So Kate will be managing that particular division with 3 vegetation management specialists that will be working on it. And the one that I just hired, the last one we just hired, that starts on the 23rd or something like that. She's also a marketing individual, so got a degree in marketing. So she's got her forestry, specifically on fire ecology degree, and then she's also got a degree in marketing. So
great, okay, excellent. So it's great that we're here at 55. I noticed that there's some construction going on out in front, and I remember at a previous meeting you had talked about a memorial. Is that what's happening?
there's a couple things that are happening. This makes my heart feel good to see that. And actually, I haven't come out here at all because I want to see it when it's all done. But one of the things that we did, that I launched about 2 years ago, is really aggressively, I wanted a zone 0 presentation of what the zone 0 would look like. My overall emphasis was, I just want to grab a citizen and say, go to Fire Station 55, and that is the example of what your house should look like. This is the only fire station that actually is in the wildland zone, in the interface zone. So this is very appropriate to do this here. So working on a lot through getting some funding, and then finally got this through. At the same time, we don't have a memorial area per se at any one of our fire stations. I think there's been sporadic things here and there as far as plaques, pictures, and that kind of stuff. So now what we're doing, we create a little area. We don't know if it's gonna have waterfront, but for sure it'll have pavers and some kind of concrete work. Well, we will put all the firefighters' names in there that have died in line of duty on there. And we will, my what I envision that once a year, we have a celebration and we all come out here. And just acknowledge that, it may be on 9/11 or maybe a different date on there, but we just acknowledge that we're coming here and have a celebration. And that's a place where you just sit and it's very peaceful here, very quiet, very appropriate for what I envision, a very quiet space to sit there and reflect on our firefighters. Many of our firefighters don't know what happened in history, just because we haven't captured that other than looking at the website and if they even know about the website. So I think it'll be something that's very present to them. They could visualize it, they could be with it, be one with it, and especially if we consider acknowledging through some kind of celebration every year, that would be really nice. So that's what I hope to do with it, but like makes my heart feel good that that's getting done like that, and I think it'll be a good reflection. I know that my police department, one of the fire stations actually had an area like that, and he went there. I'm not sure if San Francisco had something like that thing.
Yeah, we have actually plaques at each firehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's celebration and honor.
Yeah.
So dual use, a memorial, but then also a demonstration.
Correct.
Home hardening or.
Correct.
Defensive
Zone zero.
space.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and like I'm really super looking forward to it for sure.
What's the time frame for completion?
You know? I don't really know, but they're out there like,
Yeah, I see them.
yeah,
Drive by every day.
it should be pretty soon.
They were working for a couple of weeks though.
Yeah.
It's great. One other thing, another show and tell. So I was at an event that my company had just about 3 weeks ago. And there was a speaker there who was really interesting. His name is John O'Leary. He's written this book. He's a middle-aged man now, but when he was a young boy, he was quote playing with fire. And people want to see it. It involved a gas tank, I think, that was in his garage, and it exploded, and then he was just, I think 90% of his body was badly burned. So he now has dedicated himself to speaking. It's very inspirational to hear his story. The people in the audience pretty much came to tears when they heard that story. And there's a movie that's coming out. The movie's going to be called, I believe it's Soul on Fire, I think is the name of the movie that he said it's gonna be coming out this fall. And I think it'll be on one of the streaming services. It's got some famous actors, John Corbett and William H. Macy, I think his name is. So anyway, it was just really interesting. Of course, I saw this not too long after the incident happened in San Diego, and I actually had a chance to speak with him afterwards and mention that I'm hoping to connect him with some of the families and other parties involved in that incident. So, interesting book. I haven't read the book yet, but if you have a chance and are looking to read something, I think it could be really interesting. Okay, final thing that I had was just future meetings. So I know last commission meeting, we decided to skip July and come back in August. So I think we'll plan to do that at the PSC, and then we can determine that then for the September meeting, we'll go to the next fire station. As always, I'd love to bring in a guest to a guest speaker. That's been our pattern this year when we have the meeting at the PSC. And there are quite a few. I think Commissioner Chung, you had mentioned maybe having Chief Bernard to provide a discussion and Q&A about apparatus. And so is there, can we check, like if
We'll find out who the schedules.
yeah, exactly, if the shifts work. So that could be one, and then Chief Senate, I think we had talked about someone from the water district, if
I've been
that's a
working on that.
possibility.
I have not been able to get anybody to commit.
Okay,
So we'll continue to work on that.
okay,
Suggestion, I know that there are therapy dogs that come to our fire department sometimes, and it's first responder therapy dogs, if I have the name correct. I would be fascinated to hear, I would love to have them come and share with us what their program is and what they provide to San Rafael Fire.
okay. Do you know any of the contacts?
I don't,
We can figure it out.
yeah, I only know about it because I saw a little placard at PSC at that firehouse.
They came to 9/11, they came to 54.
Yeah.
They came with
We have
open
also
house.
checked
Yeah,
for being
Yeah,
handled with really be happy to come and give a presentation.
Yeah, I think that would be nice for the commission to hear that. So if we need somebody, that's my suggestion,
Okay.
for short speaker. Or when we have time for them.
I think another interesting guest might be someone from the SAFE team organization, just because I know we've talked about at previous meetings, the amount of medical calls, and how that team might be able to alleviate some of the calls that are coming in, from 911 and potentially respond as opposed to the sending an ambulance, sending a
Should be able to do
an
that.
engine.
Yeah.
Is there a contact, is that something I'm happy to help and reach
I
out?
can do that.
Okay,
Another good person would be having Chief Hatfield speak to us, because he's the chief of EMS,
okay,
and that's a relatively new position, and he's doing a lot of. He's keeping busy, got a lot of things going on, so to have an update on all his.
that's,
doings
I
is
love
very
that
good,
idea,
too.
yeah, that would be great.
We'll just see who's on.
Yeah, we'll see
whoever
who's
that
working
needs to be
that day.
Well, he's on.
Yeah, he's on all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, all right, those sound like some great ideas. All right, that's it for me. Chief's report.
Can I just interject? Do you have a preference or do you want staff to select one of those that was thrown out?
Well, why don't we, why don't we reach out to all of them and see who's available at what time, and if they can't make the August meeting, then, maybe it's the October meeting. Okay.
Okay. Well, welcome to Station 55. Today on duty, we have Matt Locatelli, Graham Winkelman, and Ryan Hall. Maybe after the meeting concludes, if you'd like, we could just do a brief tour through the facility and you can say hi to them and thank them for accommodating us today. So Station 55 was part of the Measure E renovation facilities project. This facility was renovated. It was not completely torn down like Station 51, Station 52, Station 57. This was a renovation similar to Station 54, where the apparatus room pretty much stayed intact, new doors up front, some refurbishing inside, but it was the living quarters that was first raised out of the floodplain, and then completely it's a new structure attached to the existing engine room. So out here we have, as you can see, two pieces of equipment. We have engine 55, and we have medic 55. So you would think that maybe there are 5 people here on duty. There's none. This is a cross-staff station, similar to Station 56. So there's 3 on duty. There's a captain, an engineer, and a firefighter. And the ambulance is a backup ambulance. When the 2 primaries are busy, the backups, this one here at Station 55 and the one at Station 56 can be pressed into service. It runs in tandem with the engine. So the jump seat firefighter drives the ambulance. So when the engine leaves the station, the ambulance is following behind so that it can always be pressed into service. If it is pressed into service, the captain will jump into the ambulance, and then the firefighter will just reposition the fire engine to a spot simply located, ready to pick up his captain, his or her captain when available. So backup ambulance, it's a system that works well. We hope to one day have a 3rd fully staffed ALS rig in addition to our new BLS rig, which we're very excited about. But that's the staffing here.
Question,
Yes.
so where is the fireboat in relation to the firehouse here?
Sure.
And when our firefighters are out on the fireboat, what station theoretically backs them up if there's a fire when they're out on the fireboat?
Well, every engine, every station backs up another station, just depends on the
Who's
type of
doing-
incident, the location of the incident. A lot of the firefighters here are fireboat qualified. So the engine here would respond to Loch Lomond Marina, where the fireboat is berthed by Andy's Market, and they would deploy.
Okay.
Another interesting piece of equipment behind you is the UTV. This station, along with Station 57, which is basically on the other side of China Camp Hill, San Pedro Ridge. Those are the 2 stations that respond to the majority of the rescues in China Camp. And those happen on a regular basis. China Camp is very popular. It gets a lot of hikers and mountain bikers. We have a regular, a typical mountain bike accident about every few weeks up there. which involves a rescue. So that piece of equipment can be pressed into service. Station 57 has one very similar to it. So the firefighters here oftentimes are responding to China camp incidents.
And they actually, so believe it or not, this is actually a vehicle that DPW is gonna get rid of. And at the last minute, I go, what are you guys gonna do with that? They go, well, gonna get rid of it, it's going to auction. I go, for pennies on the dollar, I'll take it, have it. So they gave it to me, and then, so we brought it over here, and it didn't look the way it looks like now. The folks here basically redid the front end, they put lights on, they put the back ends, put the gurney on there, they did a lot of work on it. And within, I believe even that same day or the next day, it was pressed into service for rescue out there. Now they use it all the time, basically, they don't even before they would take the fire engine and find a trail and then start walking or hiking around there or wait for a utility truck coming from downtown. Now they just all hop in that and they start responding on there. We're advancing a little bit where we do have a fairly sophisticated gurney on top. If you look at it, it's kind of a big gurney, but it literally weighs, I think, 2-3 pounds. It is very, very modern. In addition to that, we're getting some additional equipment on medical equipment, so they don't even have to move anything. They basically take their portable radios, hop in that and start responding to their call. And that way they can make quick access to it, and they're way faster than the fire engine trying to figure out what corner. If they just hit a trail, it doesn't matter what trail it is, they're gonna figure out which trail they have to wind up on, so. It's worked a lot. The only difference between this one and Station 57, the Station 57 one is on a trailer. And they do that just in case if there's an area out in Terra Linda, if they have to go out there, or to Marinwood, they have to trailer it over there. But this one basically just sits here and they respond out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that
Probably.
the members of 55 are very good in what we call rescue systems, because what you're doing is doing rope rescues hillside, trying to bring people up in a safe manner, and oftentimes it's in the dark. So they're very good at what they do.
So they talk about diversity within a fire station. My folks at this particular station have to be ready to roll in a paramedic unit, or roll in the fire engine, or the fireboat, or this thing. And so their day can start out very boring and very like out there with their coffee and end up where they're just tired because they've been on the bay, they've been up on the hill, and they've been all over the place throughout the day. And that's very typical of a day for them here.
Does that make it a more popular station?
I think it's made it more popular as we got more resources up here and kind of made them responsible for a lot more things for sure. I mean, firefighters will, they have a tendency to be attracted to more stuff, right? Like that's when, you know, for me, it's an attraction of recruiting folks here. They know that nobody wants to sit at a fire station and be bored, especially if they recruit firefighter. We want to be able to expand those specialty better programs, and we've been fairly successful at doing that, both on the rural rescue side and the water rescue side.
For those commissioners that live in this area, you might notice in the next few weeks, a fairly large construction project beginning, which is a fire flow improvement project, which is a water line replacement project throughout the Glenwood neighborhood and certain neighborhoods on either side. It's all part of the MMWD fire flow program that was passed by voters back in the mid-90s, and the tax has been renewed, I think, twice since. The Marin County Fire Chiefs were instrumental in having this fire flow program launched. We did a heavy marketing campaign back in the 90s to help convince and educate the voters that it was necessary. Up until that time, a lot of the water lines in the MMWD service area, which includes all of San Rafael, were never designed or intended for firefighting purposes. They were designed for domestic water use only. And so we were able to, with MMWD, basically do a redesign of their system so that it's a combination system that will support firefighting as well as domestic water use. So over the past 25 years or so, many areas in San Rafael and in other parts of the MMWD service area have had these upgrade projects, which I will tell you from a firefighting standpoint has been a game changer, because there were areas in the MMWD service area that hydrants would just not flow water. The lines were too small, or they were too outdated, they were corroded. They served the domestic customers adequately, but there just wasn't enough flow and pressure for firefighting. So that is changing across the board, which is obviously significant from a firefighting standpoint. But this project is probably going to take 3 months. I think those of you who live out here have received a brochure from MMWD explaining it. But I'm pleased to see that that project is now rolling into the Glenwood area. And with it, a lot of the old outdated fire hydrants that you have out here, the short double 2.5 inch hydrants are going to be replaced with modern hydrants that have the 4-inch outlets, which is standard, what we want to be able to use in order to get the maximum amount of water out of the hydrant.
Chief, you're touching on a subject that I've wondered about. Twofold question. Who's gonna pick up the cost of the new hydrants? Will it be MMWD?
Yeah.
Okay, and then back in the day, San Rafael Fire used to go about and from time to time, and Brian will remember this, check the hydrants. My understanding is there's a tug of war between Marin Municipal Water and San Rafael on whose responsibility it now is, and that San Rafael is no longer responsible in their, again, I'm asking, I'm not telling. Who is responsible to check the hydrants? Are they being checked? And at the end of the day, who's responsible to replace them if they're deemed to be deficient?
So this has been a constant issue with us and we are working on that. And this is new to me also. From my previous organization, the fire department was never in charge of any of the water system because it's a water system. It's not a fire
Correct.
system. In this case, apparently, Chief, you can probably answer this a little bit more. In the history, it's been always the city of San Rafael that's responsible for the hydrant, anything below that to the water district. So, with that being said, we are behind on the blue hydrant inspections. And we want to be able to prioritize for what we're gonna do those inspections on there. One of the things that we thought about, and this is directed to the vegetation management side, is if we kind of design a program where we believe there's gonna be a fire, especially a wildland fire, that's gonna go into the populated area where we get ember casts of that. We can project where the priority would be in the city. So what I'd like to do is go back to there, do some of that analysis, project where we would potentially see more aggressive fire, and address those hydrants as a priority, and then the other ones, because there's just too many hydrants. How many hydrants do we have?
Well, I think it's around 3,000.
So that's around 3,000 hydrants that we haven't been able to get a hold of as far as getting the inspection on it.
So Chief, what you're saying is that historically, because it was the city that was doing it, you're gonna assume that responsibility and slowly work through it?
And I don't know any other way to do this. If I could relieve myself of that duty and just put it on Marin Water, then I would I would do that in a heartbeat. But that's not the case. I know that the water district has come to the fire service saying that they need extra money for additional fire flow and.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to renew that tax probably in the next 4 years, and that would be our opportunity to basically force the hand of the water district. They have always been adamantly opposed. Adamantly, I mean, they will die on the hill over this issue. They will not maintain fire hydrants, whereas the fire chiefs have always stated a fire hydrant is a water valve. Doesn't matter if it's above the ground or below the ground. Therefore, it should be the water district's responsibility. This isn't for domestic use. It's simply about it's used for firefighting when necessary. So we've always stressed that MMWD should be maintaining the hydrants, but they will absolutely not do that. Now, the fire flow program is paying for the new hydrants within the construction project area. And that's typical for any of the fire flow improvement projects. But unfortunately, in other cases, and this happens quite often, somebody will hit a hydrant, the hydrant will become damaged for whatever reason. That's on the city. We have to pay for the replacement, and a hydrant right now is
$4,300.
$4,300.
So Chief, is that the same for other cities in Marin that Marin
Anybody
Municipal
in-
won't do it for
Anybody in the
any-
MMWD service area. Yeah,
Yeah.
any agency.
They won't do it? Wow.
That is their.
With that being said, we do see an opportunity coming up if they want fire service support for the tax measure. But, and I think one of the conversations with the rest of the fires, you say, we're willing to support it, but you take care of your hydrants. Also.
No, the city actually, I mean, sure if own is the correct word, but we're responsible for them. We have to purchase them if one needs to be replaced. Cities or fire agencies are to maintain them as necessary, inspect them as necessary. That falls on the fire agency in the MMWD service area.
So for the fire flow, if MMWD is going in there and putting in new hydrants, is that?
Once they install it, no, the fire flow program is paying for the hydrant, but once it's installed and the project includes, it becomes our responsibility.
Doesn't make sense.
So
So,
anyhow,
But-
but it's good news that this program it's been a very effective, a very worthwhile program. And it's made a huge difference in the MMW service area to improve the water system, the infrastructure, to enable the fire agencies to effectively utilize it.
Chief, in your previous department in the other county, did the water district take care of the hydrants
oh
there?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. They didn't want us touching them to the point we had to retract our hydrant maintenance program because we were doing, essentially putting oil in there to lube up the fittings in there. I said, you can't put oil in there. Well, really, nobody's really taught us not to do this or to do it. He goes, no, we're in charge of maintenance. We don't want any of you guys touching it. Totally different.
You know, San Francisco, they had us check our own hydrants, even though we had water. But see, the thing about you check a hydrant, when there's construction, shut-offs are paved over. Sometimes there's like growth, there's overgrowth by vegetation that you can't access the hydrant. So it was always good for us to go cruise around. We always checked every hydrant in our district at least once a year.
Some people have called since the LA fires and said, how do I know my hydrant's working? Well, one assurance you have is because it's a combination system. If your water's coming out of your faucet, then there's water going to the hydrant. So, because it's all one system. So we know the hydrants are charged as long as there's water service delivery in the area. So
Good to
that's not
know.
a problem.
Good to know.
Wasn't there also an issue in the LA fires where residents turned on their sprinklers and that, I mean, there were hydrant issues, right, already, but that residents had turned on their sprinklers and if it's coming from the same source, then that
Any
That
draw,
decreased the
any draw
draw.
on the system, you know, the system is designed for normal circumstances. And, you know, fires of a certain magnitude. Once the fire escalates beyond a certain magnitude, it's like anything else. The system was never designed or intended for, let's say, 30 fire hydrants to be drawn on simultaneously while everybody else has turned on their lawn sprinklers,
Yeah.
for instance. You've just now overtaxed the system.
when-
You know, it's like, in a high rise, if everybody were to flush the toilet at the same time, you'd blow the sewer system right out of the building, right? Think about that. Nobody ever thinks about that,
Yeah.
right?
Tell that
If
to middle
every,
schoolers.
yeah, if everybody turned on their water faucets in a high rise building, nobody would have water.
But there's some
because the
public
system is-
education I think we can do about that, just around just basic fire safety, you know, to the community. You know, your brain might be telling you, turn on my sprinklers, right? And that's the absolute wrong thing to do. That's probably a message that we could get out.
Anyhow,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
wanted to make a comment on the garage door battery backup. I just wanted to let you know that in the last code cycle of the California Building Code, that's
Yep.
our requirement.
Yep, I knew that.
So if you purchase a new garage door for your existing home, a new garage door opener, it must have the battery backup or in new construction. So it is,
Unfortunately, it's all old houses in this county. There's no new construction, hardly.
but a lot of people have to replace their garage door
Yeah.
motors. Those have a certain shelf life.
Yeah.
For instance, we did ours a few years ago and it has a battery backup. So anyhow, just a few more comments. As Commissioner McCusker mentioned, the Fire Foundation was kind enough to purchase new helmet shields for all firefighters. They greatly appreciate it. That's a big deal to firefighters. It really is. So they're very thankful for that. They really appreciate it. The Big Mac drone, a great picture of Commissioner McCusker and Thomas, our chief pilot, that went on a demonstration. And again, as she mentioned, it's named in the memory of her brother, who was a San Rafael firefighter who passed away from occupational cancer. We had a lot of fire activity over the past reporting period. I don't want to brag. All tremendous saves, I must say. I'm not on the operations team, but just I need to give them major kudos. So we had one fire, came in as a fire alarm at Safe Light Auto Glass in the canal in Vivian. And it was the middle of the night, fire alarm. When they arrived, there was a working fire in the garage area that they were quickly able to jump on, and the business was able to open the following morning, which I think is amazing.
And that was a female firefighter that went in and got after it.
It's true. Train of the dawn, first in with a fire extinguisher. We had a second, fire at the airport. That was the subject of the conversation with the drone, Big Mac flying above it, which for the first time I got to view what exactly that can do for us at a fire event. I was completely amazed, at that. But ironically, this fire at the airport in a storage building was directly across from the one that caught fire back in March. Unrelated. One had nothing to do with the other. It's just kind of a tremendous coincidence that they were in such close proximity. The cause of that fire is under investigation still. We don't think it was arson. We just think it was electrical or something along those lines. We had 2 fires within 4 days at apartment buildings. One at 81 Woodlands and one at 1350 Lincoln. Both started in an apartment unit. In both cases, the residents were able to evacuate safely. What was amazing, and again, bragging about our fire crews, is that these were working fires upon arrival. This wasn't like a pot smoking on the stove. There was fire blowing out the front windows and the front door upon arrival. And in both cases, the firefighters were able to stop the fire in the unit of origin. The units were destroyed in each case, but the rest of the buildings in both cases could be reoccupied the same day. So the fire was kept to the unit, did not spread to adjoining units above or below or alongside, which I found to be amazing, because typically when you have a fire like that, sometimes you can confine the fire to the unit of origin, but you have smoke and water damage in other units. There wasn't any. So I found that to be amazing. It happened once at 81 Woodland, and then it happened 4 days later at 1350 Lincoln Avenue. Again, the rest of the building intact, rest of the apartment units intact. And these are buildings where the residents are financially challenged. So being displaced is a tremendous hardship. So we're so happy that the majority of the residents could get back into their units, and those that couldn't were provided assistance with Red Cross. The one on 81 Woodland started in a utility closet that housed a gas furnace and a gas water heater. We know it started in there. We think it might have had something to do with the gas water heater either malfunctioning or because there were combustibles that were stored, too many storage items in that closet that shouldn't have been there. So one or the other, or a combination of both. The one on Lincoln, we think was an electrical fault or short. The resident had, it looked like multiple daisy chain electrical extension cords with multiple appliances plugged into these things that possibly shorted out or something caused. So, but just amazing work by the firefighters. And a really important note is in the EMS division, we had 4 members of the department receive statewide awards. Firefighter paramedic Marisa Gomez, firefighter paramedic Brady Winkleman, RN Katie Pinnell, our nurse educator, and our medical doctor director, Dr. Jordan Sachs, all received medals, distinguished medals for EMS crosses, and those were awarded at the state conference in Southern California last weekend. So kudos to them. It's very impressive.
Grant's driving the ambulance right now.
Back.
Sorry.
So, let's see, a couple other things. We hired 2 laterals, was it like a month ago? Those folks are now in the field. One of them came from the fire department, Patterson, the other one from Diamond Springs. They're both on board. They seem to be really enjoying it. At least that's what they told me, that they're having a good time. And I saw them at a couple of the fires and they had a smile on their faces. So I'm assuming they're having a good time here. We're starting the academy 2 entry levels that we are starting next month, July 16th. And those folks, I don't know if they have any experience. They might be brand new to us. So we'll be at, overstaffed by 3 at this point, which is good. This is what we want to be. We've had a rash of, recent injuries on some of our folks in there, but we're starting to get everybody's on the mend and we're starting to get everybody back. Starting to get the band back together here pretty fast there.
Were those injuries in service?
Line of duty, yes, line of duty injuries. Shoulder and back, which is fairly typical. Shoulder, back, and knees are generally what they'll take a firefighter out. And I think all of us have suffered through those. So we have that going on, just to save a date, and I think, I believe that Danielle already sent this out to you, for September 26th. Where it'll be our promotional / awards, recognition. We'll recognize these 4 individuals that got the award. And then last week, we also got an award, the 4 organizations got an award from the American Heart Association, for the care that we give on both strokes and cardiac stuff. So we'll be able to announce that also. I do have to say that I'm extremely proud of our EMS division, our paramedics out there. We've had some very significant critical calls, where we've been able to have saved people. Last week, we had one, a 41-year-old that was a cardiac arrest at Terra Linda construction crew. And we were bringing to the point where they shocked him and did everything. And by the time they got to the hospital, he's going, "Hey, was I in an accident or something?" And they're going, "Dude, you died." So we really had some highly successful, saves like that. Folks with families and that kind of stuff. So really, our folks are really stepping up. And this is on top of running their normal calls, on top of going to structure fires and doing all that stuff. So that particular day, they had a cardiac save at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that afternoon by noon, they're at a fire also, working on a fire also. So a lot of work has gone in our folks there. And they continue to do really solid, good work on there. I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of the success we've had. And you know, each day we get a new thing from either a nurse, some of our doctors saying, "Hey, good job to you guys on the stroke call," stuff like that. So we keep on getting that kind of reinforcement from professionals that we're delivering these patients to. So I know that our folks are really aggressively for how they treat our folks as far as the treatment that we give, the medical care that we give. So super happy the way things are going on the EMS. And then we've been able to put in good support systems in there with both an RN and a quality assurance person that really follows up on them and really cares about the program also. So that'll be, we'll acknowledge all that on September 26th, along with some, I think we only have 1 promotion, but we brought in a fair amount of folks that will acknowledge that. Our 3 folks that I talked about, our vegetation management specialists, they're coming on board. And then we also have 2 Office of Emergency Services, what do we call them, coordinators. They're coming on board also. Both of them have previous, one from the National Park Service, the other one is from the County of San Mateo. So both of them have a lot of experience also that are coming on board. We are,
Sorry, Chief, is that event, is it gonna be at council or is it at one of the stations?
no, we're gonna have it at council.
Okay,
Just a lot easier for us to do the chairs and all that stuff. We don't have to move chairs around, stuff like that. May one is to move the fire station. Right now, it seems to be like the best spot for parking and everything.
When you
So-
say council, do you mean city council?
Yeah, council chambers. Yeah. And then the BLS program, we're hoping to start here pretty soon. We did our last meeting confirmed yesterday with the union, and then we'll come back with them to kind of settle any kind of potential open items that they would start to settle. So I'm really looking forward to all the stuff that's going on. Any questions for me?
What does BLS stand for?
Basic life support. So it's 2 EMTs that are. So. That's what we have. And once again, it's intended to, bring in some folks that don't necessarily aren't exposed to this or wouldn't be exposed to this. But now we're giving them that exposure.
and then the BLS versus the ALS,
Correct.
and it's ALS is advanced?
Yes, advanced life support.
And what's the,
Paramedic and EMT. So the paramedics can start IVs, intubate, defibrillate. Well, EMTs can defibrillate to a certain extent. What else?
A lot of medicines, EMTs don't use too many medicines unless they're oxygen medicine. But so paramedics will do all the cardiac drugs for cardiac arrests. Not necessarily too many drugs for strokes, but allergic reactions. Level of consciousness, low blood sugar, drug overdoses, all that kind of stuff. Is what the paramedics will administer drugs for versus the BLS unit. It's here, it was just somebody's pretty much okay, they may have a cut that they can bandage up and transport to the hospital.
Okay, so we're looking at some of those calls that don't have the necessity to have a paramedic on board, that we would have the EMTs just transport them.
And one of the objectives of this obviously is to keep the ALS transport units available more often, so they don't get tied up on a call that a BLS unit can handle, so.
So a simple call, like somebody that needs stitches that can't get to the hospital by any other means, that just needs to transfer to the hospital. Very appropriate to just send them via the BLS ambulance, as opposed to, somebody that's having chest pain, we're not gonna send them via BLS, it's a paramedic ambulance. At that point.
Yeah.
And that'll hopefully free up our first out ambulances, that way this ambulance doesn't leave for you guys to live out here. And then there's nobody staffed out here, so then you're waiting for 52 or over in the valley.
We get a lot of call from the bus station on a cold rainy night.
Yeah.
They call 911, what's going on? I don't feel good. It's very non-specific. Where do you want to go? I want to go to the hospital. Can you walk to the ambulance? Yes. Otherwise, that would tie up an ALS ambulance, but the BLS people can handle a call like that.
So is it the dispatcher? is
Dispatch would
asking these
triage
questions?
that,
Yeah, at this point, well, we're not, we still have to experiment a little bit to see how comfortable everybody is with that. So we're not necessarily invoking that right off the bat. What we are gonna do is still continue saying there's a response and leave it up to the captain and the paramedic on scene to say, hey, we need to downgrade. Or the captain on the engine company say, cancel the medic unit, start my BLS unit. And then work our way up from there for our comfort level. So this is all new to us, so we wanna make sure that we do a good job with this. So we're not gonna expand the policy until we feel comfortable with this level. So there'll be several levels on there. And it could be to the point where later on, where if they could even take a 911 call where there's no other ambulance available, we need an ambulance. Potentially the BLS units available as an extra tool. I know that me personally, I've had some fairly critical calls where I just need somebody to be able to transport. I could do the paramedic stuff. I need somebody to help me do the transport. And I've had some situations like that in the past where we just need an ambulance, and this would be a situation. We just need that resource of a transport rig.
Yeah.
So. And we'll see where it takes us. No expectation. We hope that it's a program that thrives, but if it doesn't work at the end, it doesn't work, and it's a pilot program. And then we've been able to show that it's a zero cost deal. So it's not extra money that we're putting into it. It's actually, it'll balance out once we get a couple of transports. We figured that on the average, we need to be able to transport twice every 2 weeks, I believe, and that's it. If we do 2 transports every 2 weeks, it pays for itself.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions for the chief? The chiefs? Okay, then we are adjourned at 5:24. We'll see everybody, not in July. Skip a month, we'll see you in August.
thank you.
And thanks to Station 55 for hosting. Appreciate it.
They give their